Living off grid, you know, it takes some sacrifices. If this was easy, everybody, you know, anybody would do it. You got to cut wood, pick up branches around, plan for inclement weather, groceries. How do I store my food, you know, in my refrigerators? How do I power that up? You just don't get up in the morning, drink a cup of coffee, sit on the porch and listen to some music. Hey everyone, this is Ben from the Seper Gumbie channel. I'm here at my off-grid property and I've got Mario here today, and I live here in Tennessee. I'm retired now, so I do a lot of outdoor adventures all over the US, but we're gonna go in and check out the off-grid cabin.
So I think the first thing I'm noticing is you got this diesel heater right here.
This is my H-Calorie toolbox. I use this primarily for the front half of the cabin. It's pretty efficient. I installed it with a RV dump valve so I can control the flow and it goes straight in. I didn't want to leave this one inside, but I've got another one that I mounted inside. But yeah, H-Calorie has been a great diesel heater. The cabin is totally off grid. I have no water, no electricity from the grid. I do have a battery system I'm going to show you from Lead Time, and then that is my primary source of power. And then of course I have my Blue Eddy power stations as a secondary to run some 12 volt gear. But I do have 6 500 watt solar panels. I've got them outside. I'm waiting for the stands to come in right now, so they're not really set up. So I use a generator to charge up my batteries, and with the battery system that I'm going to show you guys, it'll last about 4 days without no gas generator. Right here is my Lead Time power. This is what powers the cabin, and this is a 48 volt system. Now, when I say 48 volt, a lot of this batteries that everybody uses in their, you know, their rigs or their camping is 12 volts, and this is 48 volts. So one of these batteries is equivalent to 4 12 volt batteries. And it does pump out a lot of power. I'm pushing about 15,000 watts. I go through a 48 volt 5,000 watt inverter, and that is tied into my breaker box, and it also ties into where I can put a generator to charge up these batteries. I can use these batteries probably about 4 days to power this place up before I even need to consider charging it. Right now I'm showing 60-70%. I ran it all night, all day yesterday, and I'll probably top it off here tomorrow in preps for the storm.
So each one of these is about 5,000 watt hours. It puts out 48 volts. It says 51.2. That's the topped off voltage internally. Each battery here, I noticed, for example, this one has 62%, 69%, 66%. Do they charge and discharge at different rates? How does that work?
Well, I've got them hooked up in parallel, so they'll balance out. They'll draw from all three at the same time. If you had them in series, it would take one battery and then go on to the next one and to the next one. But in parallel, when I charge it up, it'll charge all three batteries up evenly, and that's what you want to do. And you also want to draw from the batteries evenly, so that way if there's a problem with one battery, the circuit breakers and the bus bars will pick that up. One of these batteries a piece weighs 105 pounds.
Wow.
So you know, we're talking 315 pounds just on the batteries itself. I've got it tied in to the breaker box. So in the breaker box, I have a main breaker and I have 2 circuit breakers where I can shut it off to all the receptacles of power of the cabin. Coming out of that, from the batteries, they do go to each individual circuit breakers. I have 3 circuit breakers for each battery. If one battery fails because they're in parallel, we don't want it affecting the other battery, so that circuit breaker will shut down and shut the battery off. From the circuit breakers, I go to a bus bar. I have a positive bus bar on this side and a negative bus bar, and those bus bars go into a main circuit breaker. If I flip that one here, it'll shut off the whole system for the batteries. So you can do each individual batteries or shut off the whole system and shut off the system going into the breaker. That's the important part when you go with a system this big. You have to plan for redundancy for the batteries. Also, you know, you want to make sure all your cables are all the same length, because if the cables were longer, current's going to flow to the path of least resistance first. So one battery may discharge less than the other or charge less.
Looks like this could also be a grid tie system. So if someone doesn't want to go fully off grid, you have AC input, and so someone can manage this, run throughout the day off a system like this, and then just use grid power as needed.
Correct. So basically, if you were on the grid, you could you know, charge up your batteries during the day off the grid, and then at night or at the, during inclement weather like this, you can shift over just by adjusting. You can do some adjustments on the inverter and the charger depending on your power consumption. Well, this is my kitchen area. I mean, what you see here at the cabin has only been about 6 and 8 months. I purchased this as just a basic storage kind of cabin, and I've been working on it. It's tough living and working on it at the same time, but we're getting there. I usually cook on my Genesis or my Stoke Voltaics, but I brought this in from outside just to do some cooking up a steak or anything like that. Nothing really fancy. It's just a little cabinet where I store all my groceries and all my stuff in here, and it's just an area where I can make my food and cook it up.
Have you had any issues with either of the Bluetti products here?
I did have an issue with the Elite 200. I had a plug issue that burnt my cord while I was on the trip, so Bluetti did replace it, and I love this power station. I mean, it's great, and I haven't had any issues since.
Which cord did you have a problem with?
It was a solar panel for the DC to DC charger.
So XTE.
The XT60.
Is this the one that had the problem?
That one, yes. The one that replaces in Sarge. So
they actually sent you a new one, and then you kept the old one?
Yeah, they just said keep it because they didn't want it back. So it works fine if I'm not using the PV input.
I actually have this same one in the back of my minivan. I have not had any problems with it, but on a lot of these XT60 input power stations, I have seen where if it's not a tight enough connection, they will start to melt like that.
And I think when I was off-road, in that 4-month trip, just the rocking of the vehicle while I was charging it, that might have something to do with it. But now I kind of strap it down a little bit. And
these are your water jugs. Is this your primary source of water right now?
Right now, yes. I am in process of getting some IBC totes, the 275 gallon totes. But I do have a couple water jugs with the USB pump, and I fill up at my buddy's farm right down the road. So as soon as 5 gallons will last me and Hoku maybe 3 days. So, I have, but this is usually my primary water source right now.
Do you have any plans to do a well later, or is it going to be primarily toting water?
I'm probably just going to do the tote. The well system, they wanted way too much money for. They said it's obsolete. Yeah, it was like $12,000 just for a well system and pump.
So what I've learned in my research about just going off grid is like the well can be one of the single biggest costs of anywhere that you go, I think.
Right. And I dropped the plumb bulb, down in there, and it's wet, but they won't come out. They didn't even want to come out and just check it out.
So there is a well here?
There is a well in the front. But, the pipe that goes down there, they're saying all the pumps are obsolete for it. I would have to put a new pipe in there and then a new pump, which came up to I think it was $11,500.
So I noticed that the windows are cracked, but it's actually really comfortable in here. It was a cold night last night. This thing seems to be doing a pretty good job of heating the whole area.
I purchased this wood stove from a place that they said that it was going to be about 1,000 square foot. This cabin is about 450, so I didn't have no doubt that this would be plenty. I did get it on sale when I bought it, but I didn't figure out the costs. The stove pipes and the pipes that go up to the roof, that is the major cost of a wood stove. It was twice as much than what I paid for the stove. When I saw the price for that, I kind of had to reconfigure my thoughts, but I already had the stove, I already had this piece, so it's just the triple wall that goes out to the roof because it's stainless. I learned a lot. I've never had a wood stove before. My pipe was too short. It wasn't past the roof line, so I was getting a lot of backdraft smoke coming the opposite way and filling up the cabin. That was really scary. I was burning wood that was over 20% moisture, so I was getting a lot of creosote. Everything was just wrong, and after doing my research, I found out, you do need you need wood that's under 20%. You need the stovepipe on the top of the roof to be 2 feet above the roof line so you can draw that draft in, and then you need to crack open some windows and get that flow going.
So if you don't mind me asking, all in, like what was the total to set up this stove?
I say all in was probably about $1,600. Now, if I went to the roof, it probably would have been cheaper, but I went to the sidewall, and the sidewall units are a lot more because this single wall pipe would go up to the roof and you would save that, 4 or 5 feet versus getting stainless.
So if you had to do this again, you would just go straight up right here, essentially?
I would still go out to the wall because I don't like putting holes in my roof. I was waking up with headaches in the morning, and I was all dried out, and I couldn't figure it out why. Did some research, contacted a buddy of mine who has a wood stove in his off-grid cabin. He said put a pot of water on the stove to help with that humidity. These wood stoves are so efficient, and it will dry out the air. And if you have sinus issues, you will get dried out. The thing with a wood stove is you want to find wood that's below 20% to burn the moisture, because anything over that 20% will create creosote, and creosote's really bad. I think it has some kind of arsenic properties. It'll cake up your stovepipe, and it gets this really crusty black soot that's really thick. And what can happen is your stovepipe can catch on fire, and then you'll have a fireplace or a stovepipe fire, which is not good. So what I use is a moisture or meter, and basically it has two probes, and you put it to the wood. Now let me show you a dry piece of wood. A dry piece of wood will give me about 9% moisture, which is okay, and that's why I'm drying it out there a little bit more. But a wet piece of wood, if I burnt this will create so much smoke and creosote. As you can see, it's over 23%, and it turns it red. So this is not something I would want to burn inside of my wood stove.
It definitely smells like a country home. That nice, almost like cedar smoke,
Yeah.
Is this cedar?
It is. This is all red cedar. I purchased it from a mill.
The way the tin and the cedar goes together, it feels like there's an ambiance in here and a light. So like it helps kind of with the lighting, I think, as
Yes.
well, right?
That's why I put tin above on the below the lofts and in the kitchen. I am going to put a little bit more lighting in here as well, but it does reflect the light down, and it helps out. The tin not only helped with the lighting, but it also helped with spacing stuff around it and filling the spot, so I didn't have to use all cedar. These cedars were all live edge. They're not perfectly straight, so the only way I could think of doing it is just lap it over each other, give it a little bit more cabin feel on the inside.
So behind the cedar right now, do you have insulation back there? Is it the spray foam?
Yes, I have the spray foam. Kraken Bond got with me, and they wanted to do something with the cabin showcasing their foam. So I did the whole bottom half with all Kraken Bond spray foam, closed cell fire foam.
And then I do notice that you are essentially rough and finish right now with a couple of outlets. Are there outlets all around or just a few?
Every wall has an outlet. I've got one where every lamp is, and the TV. I've got lamps plugged into the outlets right now, except the Blue Eddy one right there. I do have two outlets up there. One is for the batteries. The other one is for the generator input. So I'll plug in the generator outside, and then I'll plug in my outlet. Living off grid, it takes some sacrifices, a lot of give and take. If I wasn't into overlanding or did a lot of dispersed camping, I think the learning curve would have been a little bit steeper. I do not have an electricity bill, I don't have a water bill, and I don't have a mortgage anymore. But if this was easy, everybody, anybody would do it. There's things that you got to do every day. You got to cut wood, you got to check your fuel, you got to check your batteries. I've got to take care of Hoku. I got to keep warm. And the winter, this is my first winter in this cabin, so this was a learning curve to be in, single digits, double, low teens, plus the storms coming. So it's definitely a challenge, and I look forward to it. But living off grid is something that if you plan to do, make sure you do your research, get with people, and learn about it before you do it, because one, it can get costly. I save a lot of materials, and it's a great way to live, but like I said, there's a lot of sacrifices. I had a house payment. My electricity bill in the winter was just crazy. Heating, and I was paying $400-500 a month. I had a 3,000 square foot house, 6 bedroom, 3 baths, and it was just Hoku and I. And I needed to scale down. And when I hit the road full time, I needed to come back to a base. And a lot of folks said you need that. And I didn't think I needed it, but you got to come back so you can reset, restock, maintenance, and kind of, get everything back and ready. So I was able to purchase this cabin, and you know, I've got it. You can get something like this. This is a 12 by 36. You can spend between $10,000 and $13,000. And then I bought the land. I've got, you know, all this land out here, you know, and you know, I think I'm all in for probably about 30,000, 40,000. But you know, I still got a lot of work to do. But the cost prohibited, you know, instead of paying $500 a month for heating, now I pay $100 for a whole rick of firewood, which will last me about 3 weeks. And that stove heats this place up. And then of course I've got the diesel heater. My biggest cost for this cabin is fuel, the unleaded gas for the generator and the diesel for the diesel heaters, but that's only during the winter months. The winter sun is shorter. You know, you may get 4 hours of really good sun on a good day. So, you know, when summer comes or spring comes, I'll have a good to charge up the system with the solar power panels and save a little bit more money. There is a lot of work, especially on a homestead or off-grid cabin. You know, like I said, you got to cut wood. You've got to, you know, pick up branches around. You know, you got to plan for inclement weather, groceries. You know, how do I store my food, you know, in my refrigerators? How do I power that up? And a lot of power consumption. You have to think about your power consumption. You know, great. This system will run a washer, dryer, heater, television, you know, stove, and I could power that all at once, but there's no reason to, and you got to be smart about it. And you know, there is a lot of work. You just don't get up in the morning, drink a cup of coffee, sit on the porch, and listen to some music. There's a lot of work to be done, and you know, like I said, if it was easy, everybody would do it. I still have to build a water system, catchment system. I still need to build a storage shed, and then some other things around here. But it is a lot of work, but I enjoy it. And now that I'm retired, it keeps me pretty busy and keeps me healthy. I'll tell you a little funny story about the outhouse shower house. We built that in the spring, so it was fine in the summer taking a shower when it's 80 degrees out there. But we did have some warm days about 3 weeks ago. And so I decided, instead of driving all the way to the Planet Fitness, to just take a shower out there. And you know, I did set my clothes down on the boards, but the wind had blown my shorts and the towel down. And you know, I just got done taking my shower. At this same time, I heard Hoku barking, and I heard somebody coming down the driveway. It was the Amazon driver. And I was like, oh man, I can't reach my towel. So I'm just kind of crouched down in there, sat on the bucket, and just kind of like hide in there. He drops off my package, and I'm saying, good, he's going to leave now. He gets back in his Amazon van, and he sits on his phone for about 10 minutes. So I'm stuck in there, you know, naked, no towel, you know, cold, but eventually he left, and I didn't have to dry off because I already had all the water.
You're dry by then?
Yeah.
So you're running 95% electricity, and then maybe 5% diesel for the heaters, and then firewood for heat. Do you plan to incorporate any propane or any of that, you know, other high density energies?
Yeah, I don't, you know, I thought about propane, but propane can get pretty costly. And you know, if you're not used to cooking with propane, it's hard. It's hard to cook. With the wood stove, I've cooked on the top. I've made steak. I've you know, heated, you know, made pizzas and stuff like that. So I like that portion of it. It's kind of adventurous. You know, propane, you just light it and, you know, heat it up. But I do have a propane stove out there that I use from time to time. But I don't think I'll go right now, because then you got to get the tank, then you got to get it certified, you got to have a plumber come in.
Your YouTube channel is Seper Gumbie. What's the meaning behind that?
Well, Seper Gumbie is a military term for always flexible. You know, they say Seper Gumbie, you got to bend over backwards and all this stuff. And, you know, a lot of folks in the military use that term, but they spell it G-U-M-B-Y. And due to copyright stuff, I spell mine G-U-M-B-I-E. So, and a lot of folks think that when they see Semper, first thing in their mind is the Marines. I was never in the Marines. I was in the Coast Guard. I retired out of the Coast Guard, but we use Semper Paratus, which is always ready, instead of Semper Fidelis. So the two branches both use Semper. I have a lot of Marine friends, but that's where Semper Gumbie came from. You always have to be flexible, especially when you're outdoors and doing these things. You know, you can't get stressed out. There's things that are going to be out of your control. And, you know, if you stress out about it and you try to worry, there's nothing you can do. It's just going to make matters worse. So, you know, you need to sit back, take a breath and try to assess the situation and see what the solution is or what you can do to ease it, you know, and that's where Semper Gumbie came from.
So this is your home base. You do a lot of travel, camping, overlanding, that kind of stuff?
Yes, I just got back from a 4-month overlanding trip. 2 years ago, I set out halfway and I've got all the way to Wyoming. And when I got out there, I got a job interview. I shouldn't have checked my email, but I got a job interview, accepted the job, and I had to be back like 4 days later. So I never finished the trip. This time, you know, since I'm fully retired, I was able to, you know, just go and just check out all these places I wanted to go. And I tell people, you know, if you're going to do it because, you know, when you get up in age, I'll be 60 this year. And, you know, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And if you always are going to wonder if I should have done it or I never got a chance to do it, you're always going to regret it. So, you know, make time, you know, to spend some time outdoors, spend time with your family, go do these things that you enjoy, because, you know, life is just too short not to do it. And, you know, that's what I wanted to do with the off-grid cabin. I wanted to explore across the United States and do this adventure stuff. So
you're truly living that dream, huh?
I am now. You know, it only took me, you know, I don't know, 30 somewhat years to fulfill that dream. But, you know, if somebody wants to do it, I say go ahead. If they get a chance and they can do it, just do it. Or just take small trips and go, you know, get outdoors and experience, you know, nature. The cost for that trip was mainly gas. You know, the gas was the big, because a lot of these places were all dispersed camping, national forests. You know, I'm camping at 11,000 feet, 12,000 feet away from no one, you know, and just watching, you know, deer and bears and elk and bison, you know, go trotting through. So go do it. You're
close enough, I think, that maybe you have cell reception here to the city. Do you also have Wi-Fi, internet, any of that kind of stuff?
Here at this property, cell phone, I do get 1 bar. It's very limited here on the property, but I do have my Starlink. I do have internet, and that's how I monitor and watch YouTube channels, especially the Adventure Gear TV and you know, Overland Minivan. But I do have my Starlink, and I run it 24/7. I've got that unlimited plan that I use all over the United States. You know, when I'm at 11,000 feet and I want to upload or download the videos, or I need to be connected to family, that my cell phone, especially at that altitude, I can contact folks in case of an emergency. I did have some friends in Colorado that flipped their trailer at 11,000 feet, and they could not get into it. They didn't have cell phone reception. Luckily, they had their Starlink or their emergency communicator. But you know, I run my Starlink 24/7. But like for the storm, I do have an external battery that I use to power up my Starlinks, and this right here is made by a company called Devos, and they do last, this one they say 7 to 9 hours, and it's also got it's a battery bank that can also charge up your items. Now the good thing about this, with this stand, they designed it that it has 8 degrees of tilt, so it automatically aligns your Starlink. You don't have to prop it up and move it around, and it fits right into the bottom of the Starlink. So you cannot fly with these because it's over 99 watt hours. Yep. Unlike, you know, the Peak do. This has a magnetic section too now, where you can just slap it right in, and I think the extended of battery life's a little bit more. But everything you see here at the cabin, you know, I run on batteries or solar most of the time. So, you know, that's how I get my TV. It's running off my Starlink. Here I get about 180 you know, upload or downloads, and then, you know, 20 upload. So, you know, it's a good connection. It's fine. You know, I'm not gaming or streaming other stuff, but I watch movies and stuff like that. So.
And I'm noticing, and I've been watching this. This storm is projected to be a pretty big storm in the next couple of days. Are you ready?
I am. Prepared? I'm ready. I've just got to get some fuel. I need to fill up a little bit more fuel tanks. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get a little bit more diesel. I didn't want to do it like right now and then end up using it. I've got groceries. I've got my fridge in my truck loaded, and I also got my fridge right there behind you.
So Ben, if anybody wants to find you, where can they find you on social media?
Okay, well, on social media, they can find me on Instagram at Semper_Gumbie on Instagram. On my YouTube channel, my main channel is Semper Gumbie channel. And then I just started this off-grid stuff, so Off-Grid Gumbie is my channels. And then on Facebook, Semper Gumbie.
Thanks for sharing your off-grid homestead with us. If you guys enjoyed this, check out his channel and give us a like.